Everybody outside, if you want to see this panel, please come on in now. Thank you. We're going to carry on with the Berklee College of Music with the very talented Nacho who's going to run us through a workshop with a modular basic system and DAW. Oh, it's a bit above my head, that is. Okay, so thanks, Nacho. Off you go, mate.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, hello, welcome everyone. My name is Nacho Marco, and we're going to talk about applied analog synthesis today, which is one of the classes I teach in Berklee College of Music. Let me begin with a little introduction to our beloved institution, Berklee, which was established in the 1940s in the United States, and we have well-known alumni, including people like Quincy Jones, Pat Metheny, or Diana Krall, just to name a few. Our main campus is in Boston, Massachusetts. We offer the long-term career there, which lasts for 4 years. And this is our campus there. But we have a second campus since 6 years ago, and it's located in my hometown in Valencia, in Spain. It's built inside of the City of the Arts and Science. This is our campus. And in Valencia, we offer the masters that last for 1 year. So if you are interested in studying music production, technology, innovation, this is the place to be. This is just an inside. You can see our studios, labs and ensemble rooms. This is the DJ lab where I spend most of my time teaching in Berklee. And let me tell you a little bit more about me. Before becoming a teacher, I was a DJ. I've been DJing for the last 25 years and DJing in the best clubs in Europe and abroad. Also, I set my own studio full of analog gear. As you can see, I set my own label, Loudest Records, which is still running after 11 years. Providing the best, what we consider the best deep tech house tracks. And also, as an artist, I've been working for many, many labels in the last 25 years. But let's get to the point now. What is this piece of gear that I have here? A modular synthesizer. A modular is an open system in which practically anything is possible. And that's where the fun really starts. But what the hell is a modular synthesizer? A modular synthesizer is something that I can build a la carte. I can select my favorite oscillators, my favorite filters, my favorite amplifiers, and put them all together and assemble them all together. Let's begin with the most basic module, which is the VCO. What is a VCO? A VCO is a voltage control oscillator, and it's the basic source of sound. It's an electronic circuit that generates electric waves. Think about the way the loudspeaker right now is moving the particles in the air. And we are going to be able to generate this moving of particles electrically by moving electrons. And we're going to do it by using a VCO, an oscillator that is going to be generating compressions and rarefactions that, depending on the velocity that I make them oscillate, the resultant is going to be a higher or a lower pitch. Okay? So the oscillator is going to let us control the tune of what we are designing. Types of waves that we can generate with oscillator: sine wave, square wave, pulse, triangle, sawtooth, and noise. What is the difference between one to the other? The harmonic content. Okay? The harmonic content is going to make us differentiate why a C is being played by a piano or by a guitar or by a flute. Okay? The harmonic content, even if we play the same note, we're going to be able to know if this note is coming out of a piano or a flute or any other instrument, thanks to the harmonic content. So Let's continue. Well, the sine wave is the basic one, 0 harmonic content, then is the sawtooth, and then the square is the richest one. Let's continue with the second module that we're going to use today, VCF filter. Voltage control filter is an electronic circuit capable of eliminate or boost certain frequencies or harmonics produced by a source of sound, the VCO in this case. The function of a filter is to control the timbre. Okay, so we are going to let more or less of this harmonic content to pass to the amplifier. Types of filters, I guess most of you are DJs here, am I right? So you know a little bit about this. What is a low-pass filter, what is a high-pass filter, what is a band-pass or a band-stop filter. Basically, we're going to use today low-pass and high-pass, okay? Low-pass, we're going to be eliminating the highest content of the wave. And with the high pass, the opposite. We're going to be eliminating the lowest content of the wave. This is taking me to our next module, which is the envelope generator. What is an envelope generator? It's a module in charge of controlling the attack, attack decay, sustain, and release. When playing a note on a synthesizer, it has a duration that can be divided in these 4 parts, where A is the time between pressing the key and the pick. D is the rundown between the attack and the sustain. Sustain is the holding time until releasing the key. And R, the release time, is the time that the note takes to disappear, going back to 0, since the key on a keyboard, for instance, is released. Function, it controls the execution of the notes. Okay, so most of the times, we're going to send the envelope generator to the amplifier directly. So then we're going to be able to generate longer or shorter notes. Okay, that's the basic idea. In terms of time and volume, this is what it looks like. And the next module is the VCA amplifier, voltage control amplifier, controls the articulation of the sound by attention controller. The function controls the amplitude of the signal. Volume, okay, is the last step before sending the signal to the PA here, and I have a knob that is going to allow me to send more or less dBs. We're going to send audio signal from an oscillator, pass through a filter, then go into the amplifier. And we're going to be able to control the amplifier from both an envelope generator or also from an LFO. Which leads me to the next question. What is an LFO? An LFO is a low-frequency oscillator, and it's a VCO that runs at lower frequencies, the ones that we cannot hear. I don't know if you know, but the human ear is capable of listening to frequencies between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. Okay, so those that we cannot hear, we can still use them in order to control other modules in the system. Okay, for instance, think about, I don't know, 5 hertz, okay? So 5 oscillations in a second. I'm never going to hear it, okay? But I can still generate it, and I can send it to a filter, so I can make a filter move up and down 5 times in a second, okay? I know it's a lot of theory to begin, so please do not hesitate to stop me, and if you have any question, just let me know. Question? No. You're never gonna listen to it, okay? Or you're never gonna feel it. You know, you're never gonna be able to amplify it that much. But these are the ones that we use to control other things, like filters or like amplifiers, or even we can send an LFO to another if we want. Okay? Let me tell you something. You never have enough LFOs in a system. It's something that we use all the time. For instance, a real example of this is a vibrato or a tremolo effect. Okay, understanding vibrato as the change on the tune. Okay, then we need to send the LFO directly to the oscillator. A tremolo is a change on the volume. Then we need to send the same LFO instead of to the oscillator to the amplifier. Okay. This is the basic scheme of the system that we are going to be using today. To control the system, we have Ableton Push, okay? Ableton Live controlled by Ableton Push, and we're sending MIDI directly from the computer to the system. Okay, we have a module that is converting all the zeros and ones that my laptop is generating into electricity. Okay, what we control here is 100% electricity. So think about this: what we are shaping in these systems is electricity. So determinants of sound, the ones that John Cage introduced in his book Silence, are frequency, amplitude, timbre, duration, and morphology, how the sound begins, goes away, and dies away. If we control these 5 terms, we are in control of any aspect of the sound. Okay, so this is the basic for sound designing. Frequency, can we control it? Yes. How? By the oscillator. Amplitude, can we control it? Yes. How? By the amplifier, voltage control amplifier. Timbre, can we control it? Yes. How? By the filter. Okay. And duration and morphology, we're going to control both by altering the times, the set times on the envelope generators. Now that we introduce the modules, let me show you a peek in detail of the system that I have here, okay? In the first section, we can see the first 3 modules that we have on top are oscillators. We have 3 different oscillators. Are we going to use the 3 of them all the time? Maybe no. Maybe for a kick, for designing a kick drum, we're only going to use 1. But I will show you how, in the end of this practice, we can... This is a monophonic system. Do you understand the difference between monophonic and polyphonic? Everyone? It's just if I'm going to be able to play 1 note or more than 1 note at a time, okay? So, with one of these systems, I'm not going to be able to play a chord, okay? But I'm going to show you a trick on how, by the tuning the 3 oscillators, then I'm going to be able to generate a chord. A basic trick. Next to it, we find the filters section, which is these 3 ones that we have here. And different filters. The first one is a low-pass filter, and the second and third one are combo filters. So we can use them in low-pass or high-pass mode. Next to it, let's jump the slew limiter, and let's go to the amplifiers. Well, the mixer. This is a mixer. Basic, exactly the same as a DJ mixer. I can just send audio signals to it, and then I can accommodate the mix, the right mix of the right levels of each of the modules that I'm sending, and then send the mix back to any other filter or directly to the amplifier if I want. Then finally we have the amplifiers. Okay, the amplifiers and the line out. So you see this cable is going directly to the PA. On the second row, we have a sequencer. We're not going to use this one today because we are using Ableton Live and Ableton Push in order to generate our sequences digitally and then turn them into electricity by using this module that I have here. That is the MIDI to CV converter. These 2 that I have here are the envelope generators. So these ones are going to help me control the duration of the notes. And yeah, finally, these 4 that I have here are LFOs. As I told you, we never have enough LFOs in a system. We're going to use Ableton Live in order to in order to generate the sequences, and also as an overdubbing system, which means that I'm going to be generating something, then recording the sequence, and then move to the next sound. Okay, so some of the sounds are going to be in audio tracks while I am generating the next sound that we are going to use in the production. Today we're making a track using only modular synthesis. We're going to design our whole drum set. We're going to design a bass line. We're going to design some stabs and some pads as well. Let's begin with the kick. Okay, this is a super easy patch. I'm only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4 cables, and I'm going to be able to generate a unique kick drum. Okay, and why unique? Because what is good about this machine is that even if I just turn it off and then turn it on again, it's never going to sound the same. Okay, there are lots of cables, there are lots of knobs, and depending on the electricity that the machine is receiving at a certain moment, it's going to sound in one way or another. What is the interesting part in this? Why, now that we're in the digital days, that we have lots of plugins, why use one of these systems nowadays? We've been passing, sorry? Yes, make it unique. This was people's choice, okay? People was interested in modular synthesis. Again, if you tell me like 10 years ago that in 2018 we're gonna go back to CV and gate instead of MIDI and to work with electricity again and with no presets, I would have said no. But nowadays we're talking about this because we've been passing what I consider a little boring era in the history of electronic music, and is when everybody went digital, everybody was sounding the same. Everybody was using the same plugins, everybody was using the same soft synths, and there was a time, you know, that people was looking again to sound in a unique way, to capture the moment, okay, which is one of the main goals of the recording studio since it was invented, okay? Capturing the moment, why? Because I don't have any preset button here, okay? So if I design the right kick with the right levels on the envelope generator, with the right levels on the filter, I better record it right away, because the following day, even if I remember exactly how my patching was and how my levels were, it's not going to sound the same, okay? And this is part of this is why working with modulars can be more sexy, okay? So, as I told you, please, let's go back to the slides. As I told you, yeah, okay, thank you. Only 4 cables, and we're going to be able to design a kick drum, okay? Well, 5, to be honest, because we have a MIDI cable going to this guy. So, I'm just going to generate a MIDI clip from Ableton Live. I'm going to send the MIDI notes here, and then MIDI notes are going to go to control my envelope generator. My envelope generator, I'm going to give it a double use, okay? One cable is going to go directly to the oscillator. Second cable is going to go directly to the amplifier. That way, my envelope generators, there are 2 modules with 4 rows of knobs, as you can see, which means that my envelopes are doubled. I'm just going to use one of them, and one row is going to be dedicated to control the pitch. The second row is going to go be dedicated to control the amplifier, okay, the articulation of the sound, the time of the note, how long, how short my kick drum is gonna be. Okay, so let's begin with this. Does it sound like a kick? No. Let's go lower. Lower. What about now? I can even go lower if I want. Okay, so depending on the type of kick that I want to design. As I told you, my notes, MIDI notes, are going directly to open and close the envelope generator. And then I'm using the first row of knobs in order to control the pitch. Okay, so if I give it, let's begin with the attack. Okay, you can feel how the pitch, okay, is taking longer or shorter. At first, I'm going to use attack 0, obviously. Let's continue with decay. Okay, decay is controlling like the punch, like the beat of the drum. Okay, I'm gonna give it a value of +1, more or less. Sustain. Sustain is my pitch control. Okay, I can have a higher pitch on the kick or a lower one. Finally, release. Not really affecting because I'm using a very short time on the release of the amplifier. Let's jump to the second row, okay? Attack. Now I'm controlling the amplification, not the pitch anymore. Decay. I'm going to use a short one. Sustain. I can make it shorter. And finally, release. This is like a super short kick. Or, let me go one octave higher. Now we can feel it. Okay, I can use a long release or a short one, 0 release. Feel the difference? Long, short. Okay. Anyone used an 808 before or a TR8? Think about the decay control on the kick module. This is what we are controlling with the release here. Any questions? Any comments so far? Let's continue. Okay, so now that we have a kick, I'm just gonna record it. And let's jump to the next sound. Now this is my kick in audio already. And let's jump to the next sound. Next sound is the the snare. Okay, and for the snare, we're gonna use a triangle wave, a little bit of white noise, and we're gonna combine both in the mixer and sending it directly to the filter. From the filter, we go to the amplifier. Okay? Basically, we can reuse the patch that we designed before with some modifications. Okay? Am I still gonna have to control the pitch with the envelope generator? Yes. Okay, so this cable stays the same. Am I gonna have to control the articulation of the sound? Yes. So this cable stays the same as the patch that we designed before. First change is that instead of a sine wave, I'm gonna use a triangle. So I'm gonna use the next output on the oscillator. I'm gonna send it to the mixer. Then in the mixer, channel number 1 is gonna control the amount of a triangle wave that I want to use. Channel number 2, I'm gonna add some white noise. Okay, and I'm gonna send it to channel number 2. So in the mixer, I'm gonna be able to control the amount that I want to hear from each of the modules. We're going to send the output of the mixer to the filter. And then from the filter, we're going to go directly to the amplifier. Okay, let's check it. Okay, maybe too low to be a snare. We can go one octave higher. We're getting there. Let's change a little bit the decay. Maybe we want a faster decay. Maybe a longer sustain or shorter. Let's try. Remember, triangle, channel number 1, mixed with noise, just noise, okay? So in the mixer section, I select how much of each I want. Then the filter, I can make it darker or brighter. Okay, let's go now to the let's move now to the second row of controls that we have in the envelope, the one that is controlling the amplifier. So let's see if we want to a little bit more decay in my snare or a little bit less. Okay. Maybe a little bit more attack. No. Attack doesn't make it. Use longer attacks doesn't make any sense in percussion because percussion is like super quick times all the time. Okay, more or less a little bit shorter. Maybe let's use a higher pitch. Okay, there we go. So let's pretend that we record this snare and let's move to the next sound. Okay, this one is a bit lower, but more or less the same. It's been recorded using the same type of patch. So, what is next? Next is the hi-hats. Hi-hats is probably the simplest patch that we're going to build today. Okay, it's just a combination of white noise pass through a high-pass filter. Okay, so the patch, we can still reuse a couple of cables that we patched before, like, for instance, the second output of the ADSR that is controlling the amplifier is going to stay there. It's going to stay the same. And the white noise that we were using before is going to become our main source of sound in the case of the hi-hats. No oscillator this time, so I'm going to unpatch it. I'm not going to use the oscillator. And let's continue. Okay, let's change the filter. Okay, instead of using the first filter that we were using in order to design the kick and the snare, which was the Curtis filter by Dave Smith, low-pass filter. Now we're going to move to the third one, which is the WASP filter. WASP filter is a combo filter, so we can use it in low pass or in high pass mode. Okay, so simple change. This goes to the input, which is here, audio in. This comes from the output, which is here. Okay, let's give it a listen. Okay, just noise. Let's see how we want this noise. Let me mute this. Listen only to the modular system. Okay, it's just a question of controlling the time on the amplifier. So this is going to allow me to design shorter, longer hats. Okay, well, closed or open. maybe a little bit more of release. And filter, remember that we are using, instead of using the low pass, we're using the high pass, okay? And check this out. How are we gonna generate a combination of closed huts and open huts manually, okay? So as I told you before, it's so fun to come back to the capturing the moment idea in the studio, okay? There's no way I can automate this, okay? So I better stay like this for a while and make a recording of what I manually do. How does it sound? Like this. Let me open the third clip. Okay, this is a recording of what I was just executing live on the Modular. Okay, so let's continue with the next patch that is, can we move back? Okay, thank you. Next patch is the bass. Okay, for the bass, since we are producing some sort of deep house here, we're going to use a square wave, which is the most common in this, well, at least in the old school type of deep house tracks. We're going to use a square wave. We're going to use a low range, obviously, because we are designing a bass type of sound, and a filter. That's it. Okay, let's move back to the Curtis filter. Okay, so this is the output. This is the input. And let's use, instead of white noise, we're not going to use noise again. So instead of white noise, we're going to use a square wave from the oscillator. There's a change. Instead of, most of the times, we have two signals. One is CV, the other one is gate. CV is always going to control the pitch. Gate is always going to control the articulation. For designing drum sounds, we do kind of the opposite. We send gate in order to control the pitch, okay? But most of the times, especially when generating musical sequences, we need to send the CV directly to control the oscillator, okay? So this is what I just plugged now. Gate. Are we still going to use the second gate in order to control, sorry, gate, okay. CV is going here. Okay, let me check. There we go. We need to use a lower range, okay? So what I'm going to do is to move one octave lower and one octave lower. I think this one's going to be, this one's going to make it. So, filter. Okay, let me mute my live. Let's listen only to the bass. Okay, I can open or close the filter. Use a little bit of resonance if I want to. Okay, let's use just a little bit of resonance and okay, there we go. Now my notes are too short. Okay, so what I'm going to do is remember the second row is going to control the time of the notes in the amplifier, so we can make it longer or shorter by altering the values of the times in the envelope generator. Okay, I think something like this is going to be okay. I'm going to introduce something new as well. We're going to use the first line of knobs instead of sending it to the oscillator, as we were doing before. We're going to send it to the filter. So now we're going to be able to control, okay, how we open or close the filter on each node, okay, by altering the attack time, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay, and I can. Okay, it's more like this. Let's close it a little bit more. Okay, sounds good. Let's combine it with the rest of the sounds. We have a bass line. Now let's pretend that we record it and sounds really similar to what we had. And next is gonna be, we only have 5 minutes left, so let me wrap it up briefly. First step, after designing the bass, what we should patch on the system should be designing the stops and the paths. Okay, so let's begin with the stops. Think about some stops, some chord. Okay, and now I'm going to show you the trick that I told you before. I can only play one note at a time, okay, but I have 3 oscillators that I can combine on the mixer. So what I'm going to do is to tune them in a different way. So as you can see, the sum of the 3 oscillators is going to give me a C minor chord. Okay, and then if I send a C from Ableton Live, if I send a C note, it's going to give me the root chord that I pre-designed on the oscillators, but I can transpose it, okay, through the keyboard on Ableton Live. So the result of all this patching should sound like this. Stops. Okay. Let me isolate them. Okay. And then paths. Same chord that I'm transposing right now. Okay. So this is the result of summing all these parts individually and overdubbing them by using Ableton Live. We just have 5 minutes. Any questions? Any last-minute questions, comments? No questions? Okay. So. I'm only generating MIDI sequences from Ableton. I'm not using any soft synth here. All I'm doing is to generate the sequences on the modular and then overdubbing them inside of Ableton. I'm just using Ableton to generate the MIDI sequences and then record them into audio and then just play the mix of them. So there are no soft synths here. Everything that we designed was done manually by patching cables.
So there was no design and sound before, right?
Sorry?
There was no design and sound.
No. Everything we did on the fly. Okay? So I'm encouraging you here to use modular synthesizers, even if you produce techno, I don't care if you produce techno or house or soundtracks or whatever. This is a powerful tool that is going to make you sound in a unique way.
How much is it?
What's that? Danny.
How much is that kit?
A whole system like this is around 5,000 euros.
Wow, better work hard, guys.
You can have a simple one just by, I don't know, by spending 1,000 or by spending like nowadays like 500 to 700. You can have like a couple of modules that you can control from Ableton. So you don't really need to have a whole system like this.
And could you get a second-hand setup, do you think?
Yes.
And would you advise somebody to do that?
There's a huge second-hand market around right now because Modular synthesizers were introduced in '95, but they became popular, like, let's say, 5, 6 years ago. And since then, people is been buying and selling stuff. You know, it's like in the studio. When you buy a drum machine and then you don't want to use it anymore, you sell it secondhand. It's the same here. You can buy modules separated.
I remember I went to Luciano's studio once, and it looked like an explosion in a spaghetti factory. And it was racks of that. It's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nacho, super. Thank you, my friend. And obviously, Nacho's hanging around as well, so if you've got any personal questions, by all means, step up and ask him. He's always available. Very talented guy. Thanks, Nacho.